Massage.
Welcome to the
Good evening.
April 24th meeting of the Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees. We take attendance. Attendance? Okay, we've got attendance. Can I have a motion to vote? Do I need a motion for this?
Yes.
Motion to vote for a closed session for a director's evaluation.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, roll call vote.
Okay, trustee Trustee Kleinman,
Yes.
trustee Leon,
Yes.
trustee Solomon,
Yes.
trustee Silva,
Yes.
trustee Trudeau.
Yes. Okay, motion passes, so we will recess to close session and reconvene in this room at 7 p.m. for our regular meeting.
Friday night took care of my weekday blues. I woke up, had breakfast, and read the news. I'm feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. But I feel like there's something I'm forgetting to do.
Hey, Toby, the show's about to start.
Oh, yeah. It's a Saturday show. 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 Fashion!
This is so cool, Toby. Look at all this stuff.
It is cool, dude. Do you want to go look at some records?
Oh, that one.
Okay, we can get it.
Hey, Toby, check this out.
How about this, Otto? Can you see me?
You know, Toby, trying on these clothes gives me an idea.
Oh yeah? What's that?
We should get the crew together and have a real live fashion show.
That'd make a good episode. Plus, it'd be really, really fun.
Yeah, we can have music and a runway and lights and all that jazz. It'll be the show of the century.
Love it, dude. Here, why don't you introduce the word of the day, and I'll call the crew.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for the word of the day.
Hi, Clarissa. I was just walking by and wondering what you were doing. Is that Lexi? How did...
Lexi? Yes, Christopher and Kashi asked me to do the word of the day, likely due to my fashionable plumage. But I'm not sure how to make Lexi work.
Oh, okay. I think I can help. There should be something on the side.
This?
I'd say you got it. Do you know what it says? It says couture, which means...
Oh, yes, couture from the French, meaning the business of designing, making, and selling fashionable custom-made clothing, or the designers and establishments engaged in couture, or it can also be used to describe the clothes created by couture.
So, essentially high-end and fancy fashion?
Exactly.
Okay, now it's time for our summer game code. It has 6 letters, and it starts with the last letter of the alphabet. It's used to close and open bags or pockets or other parts of clothing, and it has teeth. So if you think you know the answer, go to play.aadl.org for
big points.
Okay, Otto, the crew's getting ready for the fashion show. Did you decide what you're gonna wear?
Not yet, Toby. I've got some ideas from the thrift shop, but I could use some more inspiration.
Inspiration, huh? Well, why don't we check out what the rest of the team is doing? Maybe that'll give you some good ideas.
Sounds good.
Oh, hey, Amanda.
Oh, hey, George.
You look different. Why are you so dressed up?
I decided to wear as much denim as I possibly could today.
What's denim?
Well, it's what I'm wearing.
You mean jeans?
Yeah, blue jeans are made of denim fabric.
Oh, hey, Katie.
Hey, what's going on? A denim party? And no one told me?
George, I was just coming to show you my new denim vest and to give you these new blue jeans Amanda got you.
For me? Wow! I love them. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, let me go put them on.
Katie, I can't wait to see him in his new pants.
He's going to look so nice.
Ta-da! You can call me Blue Jean George.
You look amazing, George. Levi Strauss would be so proud.
What? You mean the guy whose name is on my pants? Are these his old pants?
No. Levi's is the name brand of the pants you're wearing, of your blue jeans. You seem confused. Let's take a moment to look at just what Levi Strauss has to do with denim.
The name Levi Strauss is pretty synonymous with jeans, as Levi's is one of the most popular brands of blue jeans today. In 1852, Levi Strauss opened a dry goods company in San Francisco. While working, he noticed a need for durable clothing for working folks to wear. He and tailor Jacob Davis combined copper rivet reinforcements with tough denim, leading to the first manufactured waist overalls in 1873. We now call them blue jeans, and the rest is history.
Wow, I had no idea. What a cool guy making such cool pants.
George, do you want to know why we are so dressed up?
Yes, please.
Otto is having a fashion show and we get to be in it.
That sounds fun. I'm so glad I got new blue jeans for it.
Why did the baseball fan glue shoes all over his house? Why? Because he wanted to make his home run.
What is it? Well, it kind of looks like a sewing machine. It's got spools of thread and knobs that you can turn, a needle there. But I know for a fact it's not a sewing machine. What is it? Did that give you any ideas? Oh, yeah. I think I've got a couple ideas. What are you going to wear, Toby? I think I'll leave it a surprise. I bet it's going to be really good. I hope so. Well, if you're almost ready, I'll pack the truck up and we can get going. Sounds good, Toby.
A short history of fashion. Crisp pleats, tight belts, padded doublets, Lego mutton sleeves were also some of the important features of Gothic clothing in the late Gothic period, which ran between the 15th and 16th century. Jewels, pearls, gold lace, and techniques such as slashing and puffing were often used during the 14th and 17th century, which is known as the Renaissance period. Volume, floral, lace, and sophisticated colors was exemplary in the Biedermeier period, which ran from 1815 to 1848. The dresses were lively, tons of fabric, wrinkles and folds. They even got their unflattering nickname ham sleeves due to their shape as a piece of ham. The straight skirt was the dominant shape of the 1920s, but flaring skirts were also in fashion. Men wore well-tailored pinstripe suits, tuxedos, silk shirts, handkerchiefs, fedora hats, suspenders, bow ties, and black patent leather shoes. The 1960s brought bright colors, plaid patterns, bright florals, oversized bows, miniskirts, and knee-high boots. 1970s popular styles included bell-bottom pants, braid jeans, miniskirts, maxi dresses, tie-dye peasant blouses, and ponchos. The 1980s were a decade of bold style and colors. It was the decade of neon stretch pants, ripped tights, biker jackets, polished oversized blazers, and poofed skirts. One of the many popular styles of the 1990s was the preppy style, which included khakis, navy blue blazers, Oxford shirts, and brogue shoes. Which one is your favorite?
Otto Turtle here, and this is Turtle on the Street. Today we're going to be asking regular folks about their fashion. Excuse me, miss. I noticed your beautiful earrings. Can you tell me more?
Oh, these are my firecracker earrings, handmade by me. Look.
Are earrings in for puppet fashion these days?
If you got ears, I say wear them with pride.
Well, I don't have ears, but thanks for the advice. Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me more about your hat? Thanks for noticing. Hats are always in. And this one will protect me from the rain. It's gonna rain, right? I don't think so. Anyways, good luck. Excuse me. I just love your sunglasses. Can you tell me more?
Oh, well, thank you for noticing. These are a pair of extra large sunglasses. They are hot pink, and I was inspired by Elton John to vamp up my accessories, especially eyeglasses. So here we are.
Do they protect your eyes from the sun as well as look really good?
Well, more of the latter. I just look good.
I agree. Sharp as ever. You guys gotta see this magnificent dress. Excuse me. You've just gotta tell me about that dress.
Oh, this is my prairie dress. They're in fashion now, and I love gardens and flowers, so I've got flowers all over my dress.
Excellent. Well, folks, we found out what puppet fashions are in. This has been Otto Turtle for Turtle on the Street. Bye.
Hey, Sally.
Want to hear a joke?
Oh, okay.
What's the opposite of irony?
I don't know.
Wrinkly!
This is a serger. It's a lot like a sewing machine, but it makes stronger and more complicated stitches. If you look at a sweatshirt or t-shirt of yours, you might find stitches that look like these, meaning your shirt was made on a serger. That's what it is.
Hey, Fred. Oh, hey, Roy. Did you know it takes 3 sheep to make a sweater? That's interesting. I didn't even know sheep could knit. That was a joke, Fred. Oh, I love jokes. You want to hear one? Sure. What do you call an alligator that wears a vest? An investigator.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural TSS Fashion Show! Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our special guest commentator, all the way from Treaton, Michigan. She is the owner of Wigs and Whatnot, purveyor of fine hair pieces. Please welcome Brianna! Good morning, Brianna. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. How's your shop doing?
Oh, it's great. A lot of people seem to have found it these days.
Oh, yeah. I remember that being a problem.
It might be a problem.
Okay. Sales are good, though, and the wig business is going strong, huh?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Wigs are for everyone.
I agree. All right, are you ready to see some fashion?
Absolutely.
Let's do it! Up first is Amanda, sporting head-to-toe denim. And is that Katie Cat wearing the same? Looking fabulous. Do you wear denim at all?
No.
Oh, okay, that's okay. Next, after that, it's Allison looking ready to blast off. What do you think?
I think it's out of this world.
Oh, and there's Chicken in a bunny costume.
Celebrity.
Oh, celebrity indeed. The fashion bug has bitten everybody. Here comes Lucy, part peacock, and Clarissa, full flamingo. The flowing pants on that thing are great. I think it's from the 70s.
Very fresh, very fresh.
All right, who is this? It looks like it's John. Ties from head to toe and all around his neck.
I think he's ready for business.
He's ready for any formal occasion. Oozing with confidence. I gotta say, Brianna, that's the number one thing about wearing clothes. You gotta be confident no matter what you're wearing. Example number 1, Christopher in Horses and Pineapples. Is that in this year?
A true work of art, Otto.
I agree. Oh yeah, and the kick to finish it off. Such a beautiful, beautiful job. She's back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Amanda and George, clad in denim, head to toe. I know you don't wear a lot of denim, but what do you think about George's pants?
Oh, just because I don't wear it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it.
Absolutely. Those pants are Levi Strauss, and any minor 49er would be jealous of that outfit. Here's Allison giving Fred a hand down the aisle. He's got sunglasses, a nice watch, and what's his shirt say?
Fashion.
Oh, fashion. Perfect. Here comes Toby. He's carrying Tasha, who's wearing a beautiful pink scarf, a tiara, perfect for any occasion. And is that a rose-colored handbag?
I believe it is.
Très chic.
Très chic.
Well, everybody, that's it for the inaugural TSS Fashion Show. We saw a lot of great fashions, and everybody wore their clothes with confidence. I'd like to thank Brianna for being here, a true fashion icon.
Thank you so much, Otto.
Oh, it was wonderful to have you. And everybody at home, please give the fashionistas a big round of applause. Until next time, this is Otto Turtle signing off. Bye!
Friday night took care of my weekday blues. I woke up at breakfast and read the news. I'm feeling relaxed, refreshed and renewed. like there's something I'm forgetting to do.
Hey, Toby, the show's about to start.
Oh, yeah. It's a Saturday show. 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 It's a Saturday show.
Hobbies.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday Show, AADL TV's one and only Saturday morning kids variety show. My name is Toby, and I'm Otto. And today we're...
Oh, don't mind me, fellas. I'm not in your way, am I?
Not at all, Fred. Is everything okay, though?
Oh, yeah.
And today we're...
Actually, yeah, I do have a question.
What's your question, Fred?
I was wondering if you guys had any hobbies.
Hobbies?
Yeah, hobbies. Like, do you guys have things you enjoy doing when you've got time for yourself?
I do, Fred, and I think Otto does too. Yeah, Toby likes to do woodworking, and recently I've taken up bird watching. It's a great hobby to have when I'm laying around on a log.
That sounds pretty cool.
Would you like us to help you find a hobby, Fred?
I don't mean to take up all your time. It looks like you're doing your show.
That's okay, Fred. I'm sure the crew will be more than happy to help out.
That'd be great, Otto. I'm really happy with my job, and I've been spending more time with Tasha, but a guy can only spend so much time by the creek. I'd like to try out something new.
Don't worry, Fred. We've got you. I'll make some calls and I'll introduce the word of the day. Up next is Kashi and Christopher with the word of the day.
Hey Kashi, how was your trip from the seaside?
Oh, it was great. Thanks for asking.
I see you've got something here. What is it?
Oh, yeah, I was just doing a little bit of knitting.
Oh.
Those are knitting needles.
Wow. You must really like knitting.
I do. It's really fun. I make scarves sometimes.
Well, what a great hobby.
It is.
You know, we are talking all about hobbies today. And the new issue of Philately Quarterly came in, and I'm really excited to show you some of my stamps.
Wow.
Do you want to take a look at them?
Do you have a stamp collection?
I do. These are all stamps from the Soviet Union from the 80s.
Wow.
Aren't they awesome and beautiful?
They're beautiful.
Right. Kashi, do you have any other hobbies?
Yeah, I'm learning how to do carving.
Oh, Kashi, did you carve this?
Well, no, not really, because that's very professional, but it is carved. Somebody carved it.
Wow.
I'd like to learn how.
Wow, carving is so cool. Man, you know, Kashi, people have had all kinds of different hobbies through the years. Have you ever heard of CB radios?
Yeah.
Breaker, breaker, breaker.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but I know what you're talking about.
I don't even really know what to say anymore. And you know, people used to race slot cars. I used to do that when I was a kid.
Wow.
Are you ready for the word of the day?
Okay.
All right. Do you want to activate Lexi?
Sure.
Well, let's see what it says. Can you read this, Kashi?
Not exactly.
Well, it says numismatics, and that is the study of coins and coin collecting.
Oh.
That's a great hobby.
That's fun.
Well, Kashi, are you ready for the summer game code?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here it is. It is 7 letters, and it's a compound word, and it's a kind of old-style photography. The first word is like a needle, but it's not a needle. And the second word means a small opening or like a tear in something.
Wow, that's really complicated.
Well, if you think you know the answer, you can go to play.aadl.org for... And welcome back again, Kashi.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be back.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
I really appreciate you guys helping me out.
Don't worry, Fred. We'll find you a hobby.
Guys, I'm on the phone. I can't hear anything while you're talking. So anyways, Chicken, we were trying to find Fred a new hobby. Do you have one? Oh, really? That sounds awesome. It'll give you exercise, it's low cost, and it sounds like a ton of fun. You're going out today? Do you think you could show us how that works? Great. We'll check back with you soon. Thanks, Chicken. Bye. Okay, so Chicken is putting something together for us, but while we wait, why don't we just jump into it?
What do you mean, Otto?
Well, I think the best way to find a hobby is to try out a couple hobbies. So let's go.
Well, where are we going?
Just trust me, Toby.
Oh, hey, Manda. I was looking for you. George wants a snack and he's making a mess in the kitchen.
Oh, hey, Katie. Sure. Let me just finish weeding the garden and we'll head inside and make something. You know, maybe we should pick one of these nice big green tomatoes. We can make our first fried green tomatoes of the season.
Oh, wow. That sounds yummy. You are growing so many things in this big garden. Hey, what's that? Is that a weed picker?
Yep, it's a weeder. It pulls up the root of the weed too. Pretty handy.
Oh, wow. You have a lot of tools. Can you have a garden without all this stuff?
Well, I guess you could, but some of these really help get the job done. I mean, I can do without the weeder, but you really need a shovel once you get started.
I like how some hobbies need special things to help keep you safe or to make it a better experience.
Yep, I totally agree. One thing I can't forget when I head out to the garden is my hat. To keep the sun off my head on a hot day like today.
That's so smart. Manda, you're a good gardener. Hey, how are these tomatoes looking?
They are looking good, all right. Why don't we pick a nice green tomato and head inside and get cooking?
Oh boy, you know, I think George's best hobby is snacking.
I think you're right.
This instrument entered production in 1968. It consists of a metal keyboard made out of a printed circuit board, and is played by touching it with a stylus or pen. Over 3 million of these were sold as children's toys. What is it?
Sadly, I've had to give up my hobby of clock eating. It was getting to be too time consuming.
Okay, so I've got this list of hobbies here. I figure we can just go through it and try as many as we can. First up is flower arranging. Flower arranging? Yeah, as far as I know, you go around your yard and pick flowers and then put them in a vase. Then what do you do? I suppose you just look at them. You know I'm up for anything. Let's try it. I'll leave these ones for the bees. Here's one. These yellow flowers are pretty. This one might be good. Some more ground flowers. How nice. These little pepper flowers could be nice. These ones could use a little love. That was cool, but I don't really see myself doing this a whole lot. Okay, well, the next one on the list is meditation. Meditation? But... Yep. It says here that meditation is a way to train attention and awareness, yada, 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 to achieve calmness. Why not? I could use a little bit more calm in my life. Is Fred asleep? Hey, Fred? Fred? Huh? I guess that was pretty relaxing, but I don't know if I did it right. Is it supposed to feel like you're asleep? Not sure.
Guys, I think we should move on to another one. What's next on the list, Otto?
All right, let me see.
Hey, it's a shark, here to talk to you about my favorite hobby, shredding flesh. Singing. Singing is a useful tool for making beautiful noises come out of your throat in the form of notes and melodies. Today, I'm going to give you a quick and easy tutorial on how to properly sing like me, a shark. Let's start with the best and most popular note of all time, A, as in a shark. Simply place your face on the A note of a piano or keyboard and match it with your voice. Sing along with me. sounded spectacular. Now on to B as in buffet. Excellent. And of course, C as in the sea. That didn't sound quite as flawless as the first two notes. Let's try it on a different instrument. Yes, much better. Now you're starting to sound almost as good as me. Finally, you'll want to add some rhythm to your melody. You can easily emulate any percussion instrument with the same mouth you use to sing notes. Cha-cha-cha-cha. Congratulations! You, my protege, are now a world-class singer. Go find your friends and your family and serenade them with your new favorite hobby. And be sure to remind them that your mentor is me, Usher.
Our hobby is reading.
And it doesn't cost anything, just a library card.
What is it? It's a stylophone.
walking as a hobby was a great idea. I never thought about it like that before. I would just walk to the creek and stop. I never thought about keeping going.
You bet, Fred. Walking is really good for you, and you get to see a lot of things that you wouldn't see driving in a car.
Yeah, you see a lot of stuff, like that kind of looks like Brian over there.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Brian, what are you doing out here?
Just practicing my shots so I can be better at basketball. What are you up to?
Well, I'm trying to find a hobby. That looks like fun. Can I play?
Yeah, of course, dude. Here you go.
All right, here we go. Wait, I just remembered I've never played basketball before. How do you do it?
Oh, here, Fred, I'll show you. First, you set your feet. Then, make a relaxed grip with your fingertips. Focus on a spot towards the back of the net. And be sure to follow through.
Oh, okay. Like this? I can't do it.
That's okay, Fred. It's your first try. It takes a lot of time and practice to learn a new skill.
I don't think I'll ever be able to do it. It's these arms.
That gives me an idea, Fred. You're a frog, right?
Is a bog green? Take a look at these powerful legs.
Exactly. And frogs are great jumpers, right?
Absolutely. I've got mad hops, as the kids say. There's pretty much nothing I do better, except for maybe catching flies.
Well, what if you tried using your hops to your advantage? Bet you can dunk it.
Oh, yeah. Here, let me try it.
Whoa, awesome. Come on, Fred, show me your moves.
Rejected.
Nice one, bud. I think you just found something you're really good at. If you keep practicing, you could be great.
Gee, I'm having a lot of fun and all, but, I guess I'm still a little confused. It sounds like work. I am getting sweaty, but it feels like I'm just playing around. And I'm supposed to be finding a hobby, and I don't know what that should feel like.
Well, hobby's kind of a mix of both. It usually does involve a lot of work over time, but it's kind of thing you do just because you love doing it. So sometimes it can feel like you're just playing around. That's okay. Hobby is just something you love doing so much, it can make the work of it feel like fun.
Huh. I guess that's true. Thanks for the pointers, Brian.
Sure thing, Fred. Thanks for playing, bud. Good luck on your quest.
All right, Fred, you ready to try the next hobby? This time, it's stamp collecting.
Actually, Otto, you did help me. I think I found a new hobby. I'm gonna stick around here and play some hoops.
Do you want us to wait for you, Fred?
Nah, no need to wait. I think I'm gonna be here for a while.
All right, Fred, have fun. I just love that guy.
Friday night took care of my weekday blues. I woke up, had breakfast, and read the news. I'm feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. But I feel like there's something I'm forgetting to do.
Hey, Toby, the show's about to start.
Oh, yeah. It's a Saturday show. 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 It's a Saturday show.
Hey, Otto, what you doing?
Oh, I'm just making a birthday card.
A birthday card? Whose birthday is it? Is it Fred's birthday? Did we miss Fred's birthday?
Nope, guess again.
Is it your birthday, Otto? You never told me when your birthday was.
Nope, it's for the Saturday show.
A birthday card for the show?
Yep, the Saturday show is almost 1.5 years old, so I thought we'd celebrate.
Wow, I didn't even realize it's been that long. How are we gonna celebrate?
I asked Fred to make a cake, and I thought we'd reminisce.
Reminisce?
Yep, I thought we'd look back at all the awesome times we've had on the show.
That sounds good, and I know exactly where to start. Do you remember our first episode?
Otto, I understand you had a very long journey to get here. Would you like to tell the folks about it?
Sure, but I think I'd like to do it with a song.
Well, I don't know if we've got time for that.
DJ Marsupial, kick that beat.
I was dropped in a box down in Kentucky. The scenery there is oh so lovely. Thoroughbred horses with manes like silk. And if you're thirsty, the state beverage is milk. That's true, you know. Then I found myself in Cincinnati. I had traveled for days. I was feeling crabby. I ordered up food to get me ready, but they served me my chili on top of spaghetti. It's not for everyone. I made it to Detroit, but my trip wasn't through. Michigan is pretty, Indiana is too. I headed out south down US 24 and ended up at the Indiana State House door. What would you go to Indiana for? In Indy, I only had one task. I swam up the White River, ended up at the track. My time at the Brickyard was a real blast. I hopped in a race car and went real fast.
And then I came back here to do the show with you.
So you drove all the way to Indianapolis just to drive a race car?
I'm a turtle, Toby. We don't always have opportunities to go fast.
That song still holds up, bud.
It does, and you can tell how shy I was back then. What a trip.
Hey, fellas, what are you two up to?
Just reminiscing.
Oh, about what? A Hawaiian vacation? That time we went fossil hunting in Siberia? That time we took the train to Idaho?
No, about the Saturday show. Do you remember the first time you came to Toby's house, Fred?
Yeah, I think I do. Wasn't I just supposed to come for a visit?
Yeah, I think that was the case.
Well, I'm glad I stayed. Knock, knock.
Oh boy, Big Fred, you're here. So good to see you. Come in, come in.
Oh, hey there, Otto. How you doing there, bud? It's so good to see you. Otto, I'm really digging your accommodations. This place is great. Are you enjoying yourself?
Thanks, Fred. I've really been enjoying the time I've spent here.
Well, aren't you going to introduce me to your family?
Well, my mom's doing pretty good, and Uncle Testudo's always got a story to tell.
No. I'm not talking about them. I know them. I'm talking about your new family.
You know, I never really thought of it that way, but I guess you're right. All right, come on. Let's go see what Toby's up to.
Yeah.
I'm glad you stayed too, Fred. You got yourself a job.
Yeah, as Otto's personal chef.
And you found yourself a hobby.
I'm a certified basketball nut.
And you made some new friends.
Yep. Tasha and Amanda and Katie and Allison and Lauren and Christopher, to name a few. Speaking of, I'm late to meet Tasha at the creek, so I'm out of here. See you later, fellas.
We do have a lot of friends that contribute to the Saturday show, don't we, Otto?
We do. The TSS crew is amazing.
We've learned so much and had so much fun. My favorite part about our team is just how adventurous they are.
Was that shark chasing chicken a shark?
It was a shark, but I don't know if it was a shark.
A shark is great. Remember when he sold us some of his chili?
Yeah, I think I have that can somewhere around here. But I really dig a shark's music. Do you remember when he sang all the digits of pi?
Hey, it's a shark. I'm here to teach you about the never-ending number pi. Are you ready? Okay, sing along. Go. 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9, 2, 6, 5, 3, 5, 8, 9, 7, 9, 3, 2, 3, 8, 4, 6, 2, 6, 4, 3, 3, 8, 3, 2, 7, 9, 5, 0, 2, 8, 8, 4, 1, 9, 7, 1, 6, 9, 3, 9, 9, 3. Pi, 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 7, 5, 1, 0, 5, 8, 2, 0, 9, 7, 4, 9, 4, 4, 5, 9, 2, 3, 0, 7, 8, 1, 6, 4, 0, 6, 2, 8, 6, 2, 0, 8, 9, 9, 8, 6, 2, 8, 0, 3, 4, 8, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2, 1. Pi, 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 1, 7, 0, 6, 7, 9, 8, 2, 1, 4, 8, 8, 0, 8, 5, 1, 3, 2, 3, 6. The numbers. The numbers. Pi, 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 pi,
You know, Otto, we're well into this episode and we don't have a word of the day yet.
Oh, that's cause Kashi and Christopher are on vacation this week.
Did they go to the seaside again?
Not sure, but wherever they are, they're laughing.
Look, I'm being a metronome. Tick tock. That's something you do with music too sometimes. Tick tock, metronome. You laughing a lot, Christopher. Oh, hi, Christopher.
Hi, Kashi. How you doing?
I'm great.
What do you have here?
Well, I have a collection of collected items that are all having to do with jobs.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Like tools. Like, okay, so there's a hammer. If you were a builder or an architect, you would use a hammer.
Right.
If you're a cook or a chef, you might use a whisk. Not in your ear! Oh my goodness!
Hey, Kashi, how you doing?
Oh great, I'm building with my colorful block.
Wow, those sure are colorful. I love it. And you know we're talking all about colors in this episode.
Oh yeah, I have a joke for you.
Uh-oh, I'm ready.
What's orange and sounds like a parrot?
I don't know.
A carrot!
That's pretty good, Kashi.
Do you know any jokes?
Well, I do know a joke about color. Are you ready? Okay. What's green and smells like blue paint?
I don't know.
Green paint.
That's silly.
God.
I can never get enough of those two.
Here, Toby, I made a word of the day. It means to indulge in enjoyable recollection of past events.
So the word of the day is reminisce. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're reminiscing.
Yeah, and since we've got a word of the day, we might as well have a what is it too, right?
Today, we are looking at an idea. We're going to watch something happen and figure out what it is.
Welcome back to the Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees meeting for April 24th. And we now
reconvene to our regular meeting. So Karen, do we have attendance? Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes. We're in good spirits tonight. Do we have any citizens' comments? I have not received any. Okay. Then we will move right along to the financial report.
Okay. All right, your financial report begins on the page labeled 13 in the packet. Just to touch on a couple of the highlights. So this is the time of year when our cash decreases because we've realized almost all of our tax revenue for the year, and we are spending. So we've decreased about $892,000 from 11.2 to 10.3 million during the past month, sorry. At this point, we received just over $19 million in tax revenues, so that's 101.3% of our tax receipts of 18.8. Some of that is growth, some of that is captures. We use an estimate to determine what our actual revenue will be after captures. It's hard to really nail that down. So sometimes we tend to budget for that conservatively because we always would rather have more money than expected than less. Fund balance has increased from just over 7 million to 7.2 million. That's the undesignated fund balance. And just as a reminder, it's generally a good practice to have a third to a quarter, somewhere in there, of your annual operating expenses in your fund balance as a rainy day fund. So we're pretty much right on line with that, with the annual expenditures around 19 million. So we're just about at a third of that currently. All right, on page 14, just to touch on one thing that you'll see in the on the expense report, and this is called out under expenditures. We did receive an insurance dividend this month from Michigan Municipal League, who is our insurer. So that was more than our premium was for the month, so it's a net negative for that expenditure line just for that month. And we are anticipating that we will need some small budget adjustments for individual lines, moving things from one line to another. We're going to finish well under budget, but some lines may be a little over, so we might need to adjust employee benefit. I've been talking about that over the past couple months. The MEPSers pass through both on the revenue and the expense side. Copier expense, although it's a very small amount of money, and other operating expenditures. These will all likely have some adjustments. We will bring those adjustments at the June meeting because we need to pass them in such a way that we will then not go over the rest of June. So it involves some estimating, and we want to make that call as late as possible so we can be sure to have enough moved from one fund to another. So far this year, our revenues exceed expenses by $1.6 million. So that puts us in a good spot. I expect we'll actually come a little bit down from that depending on what we decide to do about the fleet. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. But most of that 1.6 is the roughly $1 million that we set aside for equipment at the plaza that we are not yet ready to purchase. We'll talk more about that shortly. Okay, skipping then to page 16. Again, looking down the far right column, we're 75% of the way through the year, so anything that is above or below 75% helps you know how we're doing there. So on the revenue side, you can see several of our revenue lines, even though they're very small budget numbers, each one of these barely 5 figures, you can see that we're way over on investment gains. Our investments have done much better than we expected this year. At the time we made the budget a year ago, it was very unclear what we would be able to expect this year, so I'm happy to report that's been much better than expected. Grants and memorials, you can see it's like, whoa, 215%, but yes, we got $10,000 instead of $5,000 as we expected, so not a major issue there. Similarly, we're doing well. The fines and fees at this point are almost exclusively lost items because we really don't charge any overdue fees anymore. So that is really solely lost items, and that just is whatever it is each month, and as things get paid for as they get lost. And then our non-resident fees, you can see a little bit over what we expected there as well. Now looking down under the expenditures, anything that is above 75% is spending a little ahead. So you can see employee benefits, as we've been talking about. The MEPSers pass through. Again, that's where the state gives us money that we give back to them. And it was a little bit more than we expected, but that'll just require a small adjustment at the end of the year. One thing to call out is materials, 76.43%. That means right on the money. That's where we really like to be with that stuff. And materials is something where we've typically left quite a bit of money on the table at the end of the year. So I'm very happy to see that with the adjustment we made to it last year, we've much more right-sized that budget, and we're spending right on time to use that money. And we are actually asking for an increase for that in next year's budget, which we'll see in a few minutes. Copier expense, you can see, is over, but again, that's a small line as far as such things go. Now when you get 30 pages for free now, which means that most printing is essentially free. We're glad to be able to do that. But you can also see there is always a mismatch. We budgeted to spend $50,000 on copiers. We budgeted to take in $10,000 on copier. But that's money well spent, particularly because the people who are using that service are typically people who are in need of help from the library. So that's a good place to be spending that small amount of money. Repairs and maintenance, pretty much right on the money. And then other operating expenditures, you can see it's 136% is one of the lines that we said we'll need to transfer into. But again, that's on an annual budget of $27,000. So that's a small line. And that's mostly just staff not being sure which thing to choose. There's kind of a couple catch-alls that feed into that. So that shows the bottom of the second column from the right, that we are on track at the moment for $1.6 million in surplus at the end of the fiscal year, mostly due to us spending. If you look at the capital outlay line, the budget is $1.3 million. We spent barely $200,000, not even $200,000. So that's where most of that surplus is coming from. You can also see we are under on salaries and wages, mostly because of positions that we budgeted for that we have not filled. And those would be mostly manager and other positions at the higher end. And that's it for the financial report. Any questions about that?
All right, great. Thanks, Eli. So moving on to committee reports. So last Monday, we had an executive committee with Eli, and really, we talked about this week's agenda, which has changed its shape a couple of times until we got here today, but we kind of went over possible agenda items, and some of those items may be coming back, but that was the bulk of the conversation. And that's all from executive committee. And I'll hand it over to Anna for the budget and finance committee.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of the budget process, and so we reviewed a draft of the budget, but we're just waiting for some of the final numbers to come in. And also it looks like we're going to be talking about the salary structure today, and so that's another big piece of the puzzle that we're just kind of waiting. We were waiting for this information to know what some of those numbers were going to be, but so far it's shaping up very well, and there should be a final draft on our timeline.
Yep.
Anything else that I missed? That's pretty much it,
No,
right?
I'll go over it in detail on the agenda in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we will move on to the library report.
All right. So we'll bring up the slides here for the monthly report today. Our stat of the month, I'm going to include a couple slides here. From this term, we worked with a class in the QMSS specialty. It's not a program, it's like a set of classes. I think it's maybe a minor. So QMSS is Quantitative Methods in the Social Sciences. It's part of LS&A. And so we had this class work with us this term, and 3 groups took on different aspects of our data to look at what sort of lessons they could learn. And one of the main lessons they learned is that data is real messy, especially when they were looking at our data compared to other institutions. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. So one of the 3 presentations was this one, AADL benchmarking analysis, and this was done by Katie Smill, Willow Zhu, and Yifan Zhao. And I want to show you just a couple slides from their data here. Now, this is super tiny, but I'm going to call it out here. Let's see, you guys can see my cursor, sort of. So this is Wi-Fi sessions versus web visits. So what this did is their study, they chose 6 libraries to benchmark us against nationally. That's Princeton Public Library in Princeton, New Jersey, Boulder Public Library in Colorado, Cambridge Public Library in Massachusetts, Wellfleet Public Library, which I don't remember which state it's in. It's a very small library, but it's a 5-star library, which is one of the reasons that they chose that one. Madison Public Library, a frequent comparison for us, and Berkeley Public Library, very similar demographics. So out of that, when you look at web visits per capita, we're on the top there with 14.4 web visits per capita. And then if we look at Wi-Fi sessions per capita, this was part of what they learned, is that you can see that we are number 2 here. And basically, if you look at this chart, Princeton's counting something really weird. I'm not sure what they're counting there, but I suspect they might be off by an order of magnitude. Just because this Wi-Fi is extremely difficult to count, and there are no standards about how to count it when you put the data into this national system. So I'm not sure how they went about counting it, but they were, it's funny because the students were like, well, Princeton is really doing something right. And I said, I think the data actually shows the opposite, that this is an outlier from a statistical standpoint. But I was very glad to see that we were at top of the pack among our sort of peer libraries, both in terms of web visits and Wi-Fi sessions, assuming that the Princeton data is an outlier. And then they looked at our social media and YouTube, and we are a real outlier here. So if you look at social number of subscribers, while 4,000 subscribers is nothing to get too excited about in YouTube land, for public library YouTube land, it's pretty much unheard of. You can see of our peers, nobody's even close. And even some libraries that do a lot of exciting stuff have nowhere near as many subscribers to their YouTube channel as we do. And you can see on the next chart there, that's why. We posted a ton of content during COVID, 2,500 videos on our channel currently. The next closest is Boulder Public Library with 600 videos. And you can see some of our libraries, like Berkeley, they've only posted 70 videos ever. So it's a very different type of deployment at different libraries. Then you can see over here on the right, the channel total views. We're way out ahead with 678,000 total views on our channel. Boulder Public Library is the next closest with 100,000 total views. And if you look at average video views, which this was an interesting thing for them to look at, Berkeley is high because out of their 69 videos, they've had some videos that have been well viewed. So that's great to see. But again, we're holding up very well there. And then one more slide just about our Instagram here. So while we're number 4 in terms of the volume of posts, we're number 1 by quite a distance in terms of the number of followers. So again, that speaks to, and I told them, since they were in there, the quantitative, that's quantity over quality there. Or perhaps the other way around, quality over quantity, because these are some very high quality Instagram posts. We also don't do a lot of, I forget what they're even called. The Reels, right? Isn't that what they're called? Reels? Yeah. We don't do a lot of those, which is, a big driver on Instagram. But, as library people, it offends our sensibilities to have them be so ephemeral. Why would you put something online and then it goes away? That's the complete opposite of what the internet is for. So, but this shows we're doing pretty great. I was delighted to see all of this information. It was very useful to see them look at this. One of the other groups did a longitudinal analysis based on our annual reports over the years, which mostly showed the times when we changed the way that we counted things, as you can imagine. And then one of them did a cluster analysis that broke up all 12,000 public libraries in the US into 3 clusters. And we were in the one with, I think, 7,000 other public libraries in it or something like that. So this was the most interesting out of those 3, but thanks to everyone in that class who did a fantastic job doing some detailed analysis we wouldn't usually take the time to do. All right, so upcoming events. At Acme is coming up soon. This is the Ann Arbor Creativity and Making Expo, formerly known as Maker Faire. The organization that owns the trademark on Maker Faire started getting really crappy about it over the past, it was basically the sort of end of the 10s. And so we renamed the event so we could call it what we wanted. And Acme is what we landed on. And this will be back for the first time since 2019. We're very excited. Got a lot of great organizations signed up to be a part of this. If you missed my bizarre musical contraption at Full Moon, it will be making another appearance at Acme. hopefully that should not, well, it'll be outside, so it shouldn't bother anyone. So that's coming up Saturday, May 6th at the Downtown Library. We got robots teams. We got our friends from MakerWorks. We got a bunch of great stuff going on. And we're bringing in this very cool YouTuber, One Hacker Band. It's coming up from North Carolina. And he's basically built a completely robot band with a singer and a drummer and a guitar player. And this is going to be really great. So we're excited to have him here. Then 2 weeks later, we have Gardening and DIY Fest, again, back for the first time since 2019. So it's be Sunday, May 21st, at the Downtown Library. Got a lot of great partners here. This is a little bit more of a shopping event, so there will be lots of people selling their handmade wares, as well as information sessions on beekeeping, saving seeds, natural plant dyeing, and the Michigan DNR will be here to talk about their stewardship program. So that's coming up on May 21st from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. For our staff spotlight this month, we wanted to highlight Aaron Berg, who's one of our desk clerks. He's worked for us for 12 years. He started as a part-time book pro and was promoted to a desk clerk in 2011. And just now, in the past few months, was promoted to a full-time desk clerk. And so what do you wish people knew about you? What do you wish people who you work with knew about you? In the immortal words of Robert Van Winkle, or as you may know him, Vanilla Ice, if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. For example, there was a broken stanchion clip at Westgate, so I 3D printed a replacement using the library's 3D printers. And he made that suit that he's wearing there as well. He 3D printed the suit. So congratulations to Aaron. AADL observes this month Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with a number of live events in May from all across the system, as well as links to past events of interest. And you can see that online at aadl.org/AAPI Heritage Month. Some new things that we got coming up. The seed sampler is back and bigger than ever. We've partnered this year with Green Things Farm Collective, formerly known as the Ann Arbor Seed Company, to provide packets of seeds, small amounts of starter seeds. Part of the problem is that when you buy seeds commercially, you get a lot of them, and sometimes that can be its own problem. So we've broken up those packs into much smaller amounts, good for beginning gardeners. All of the things that we're offering are things that are going to work in our climate. There's some food, there's some flowers, there's herbs, there's vegetable seeds, all kinds of great stuff. And each patron can order up to 10 packets, and then you pick them up on the whole shelf. So that's aadl.org/seed sampler. This is our version of the seed library. Many libraries do the seed library thing where then they have people bring seeds back. And that's just a big logistical challenge that really just was not necessary because the seeds are not very expensive. So it was really something that was very easy and has been a huge, huge success last year and off to a great start again this year. For a partnership report, we are partnering with the women's and men's AFC Ann Arbor teams this summer. We are on their jersey. We're a jersey sponsor. So you can see here a screenshot from their jersey reveal video showing that they've got us on their backs. So Ann Arbor District Library on both the men's and the women's jerseys for the AFC Ann Arbor team. We will be tabling at all of their home games this season, and we'll be involved in their season-long promotions. As you can see, we're on the jerseys. We had their pickup, their season ticket pickup was at Westgate a couple of weeks ago. They brought their squirrel mascot, so that's been going very well. What's particularly great about this one is it's a very different audience than the UMich athletic audience. And we reach a lot of audiences, and we get new patrons from these events that we don't necessarily always see. So we're really reaching to a different sector of the community through this sponsorship, and it's been a great partnership so far. Okay, here's our mention of the month from Detroit Foodie Venture. Beautiful day outside. Ellie got to join the baby play group at the Ann Arbor Library. It was a great program with story time and music. The library is very clean and neat. I highly recommend the program. They have a Sweetwater shop inside, so I got myself a cup of morning coffee, win-win. And a very cute picture of Ellie playing with toys at baby play group. And here's just one more compliment. This doesn't happen very often, but we received a comment in Spanish. And the translation is, excellent library with very cozy places to read and a variety of books and magazines in different languages. It's a place with Lego Duplo for the little ones to enjoy and computers with games for children. Every month they have free activities for adults and children. So that was great to see, and that was just right at the end of March. So here's our complaint of the month. Please close Mallett's Rain Garden meeting room. Noise from rain garden meetings is disturbing to patrons in these nearby areas who are trying to focus in a quiet environment. At Mallett's last week, there was a boisterous group yucking it up in the rain garden, not considered nearby patrons. On another library visit, there was again a group laughing and chatting. You should close the rain garden room. Mallett's already has meeting room space near the front entrance. Noise there is further away from the stacks and quiet entry areas of the library. A small group could also meet in the front snack area further away from the quiet areas. Closing the room seems reasonable given Mallett's other available front area meeting areas. Having the staff monitor the rain garden noise would likely be insufficient, as would trying to baffle the sound from that room. Well, they're right about one thing: it is very hard to baffle the sound out of the room. Just because of the construction of the branches when we retrofit those meeting rooms in, which have been used hundreds and hundreds of times every year. It's just not really possible to isolate them from a sound perspective, because then you have to handle the fire suppression, you have to handle ventilation. There's a lot of problems that suddenly get a lot more expensive when you move in that direction. And for the most part, it is not an issue. One thing that I just want to kind of mention is when he said further away from the stacks and quiet areas of the library, our branches don't really have quiet areas. There's no spaces where we are enforcing particular quiet. Our rules at all locations are that we will address noise that is louder than the overall noise level in the building, right? The one place where this works the best is the reading room at Westgate, which, just because it's separate enough and because it's kind of like its own little build out, people behave very quietly in there, and we almost never have to deal with it. But one thing that I made sure, after I received this, was I put in my Friday message to all staff, just as a reminder that if there is a group that is making a lot of noise and the program room is available, you can offer them to use the program room, right? We're not going to require them to move, because there's no reason for them to have to move. But if the room is available and it would solve the problem, we can offer it to them, and sometimes it's a more comfortable space anyway for some of those groups. So just to kind of put this on your radar, it is something that is a challenge as the meeting rooms have gotten more heavily used, especially if someone's doing a Zoom or something like that and they're tending to speak on a phone voice as opposed to like a talking to somebody voice. But it's not really any louder than the rest of the building, so it's just something that is always something for staff to be dealing with. Okay, any questions about any of that? Tomorrow is Michigan Library Advocacy Day. I will be attending the event in Lansing tomorrow and meeting with several of our legislators in the district. This is an all-day event. It's not something I've attended before, so I'm looking forward to that. The main thing that I plan to talk about with our legislators is there have been a lot of great movement on various gun laws that we've been very happy to see. But there's something that will affect libraries that I would really like to see happen. There's a list in the current handgun laws about places where firearms are not allowed. That list includes hospitals, bars, restaurants, theaters, concert halls, and a few other things. It does not include schools or libraries. I would like to see both schools and libraries on that list. It does not apply to concealed weapons. Concealed weapons means you have the permit and you're still allowed to carry them in those places. It's about the open carry. And right now, the situation is that open carry is completely allowed in schools and libraries across Michigan. And I think we're in a good position to see that to see that libraries are taken at least as seriously as theaters and sports arenas and bars and restaurants and banks and courts and hospitals. So that'd be the main thing that I would love to see happen during this legislative session, because it would be a real positive when you get an open carry advocate coming to a library. You know, there are people in the library who can get very destabilized by the result of seeing a weapon being openly carried. And we would like to be in a position to be able to call for help when that happens, as opposed to just being something that we just have to deal with. So that's it for my report for this month. Any questions about any of that?
Point of information, Instagram Reels, they stay permanently, and then stories are 24 hours.
That's right, yeah,
yes,
my bad,
absolutely.
Thank you. You can tell I'm not a Insta person.
Had to, Gen Z correspondent.
Yeah. Thank you, Abe.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think we had a generational divide. I wondered if anyone thought or might reach out to that commenter to learn more about their, the choice to write a Spanish language review about us. And
We didn't have, their name didn't hit anything in our database, so, which is great from one perspective, but I don't think that we have a mechanism to follow up with them via Google,
It's just
other than the comment.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's just a comment.
Thank you.
Nice work.
All right, great. Thanks, Eli. Moving on to old business, we have a Parkland Plaza facility upgrade update from Len.
Yes. Long time no see. It's a kind of a short update, unfortunately, but there has been movement. We did have to submit the full site plan approval. I think we mentioned that a couple months ago. Everything has been submitted to the township. We meet next week on May 2nd with the Planning Commission. I think we're in a good place, so we should get some direction next week as far as what we might need to do. We suspect there'll be deficiencies outside of that original scope. Our scope that was approved by the board was for our build out of office space. Full site plan is going to make us bring certain things up to code, and we'll kind of figure out what those are next week. I wish I had more, maybe next month. Any questions about that or the site plan approval or what we might be anticipating?
Boy, it's a bigger project than we thought.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think we anticipated this. Once the conversation went to a place, we kind of, we talked about the parking. And the year the building was built, a lot of things were on the original site plan that didn't happen or look like it was done and then just they let it slide. So we're finding some of those things out. I don't think it'll be anything too painful, but there'll probably be some things we'll want to bring up to code, even for us just being there, things that we'll find during the process. So hopefully next month we'll have, the path to permits and a construction schedule we can share. But those are the next steps.
Thank you so much for all your work on this, really.
Well,
we know we're
the
in
real
good
work
hands.
hasn't even started yet.
If only we would be allowed to do the work, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fine, though. I think we have everything we need for the original scope. We're ready for construction, and now it really is. It's just the site as a whole and what we need to do. So, all right.
So, are you actually going to the Planning Commission for approval of the site plan in the next meeting, or
this is our first meeting? My gut says they're going to tell us the things we need to do now, right? So we'll have our first meeting. If everything were to go perfect, we'd have this meeting. I think 2 weeks later it would go in for approval, or 2 weeks, and then it would go on the township's agenda 7 days after that, or the next meeting after that. So
you've got to go through planning before you go to the township board.
Yeah, this first meeting is with planning staff, and then we'll have the planning commission meeting, and then the township board meeting.
Okay.
So
we're optimistically a couple of months away, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what we find out next week. It really does. If there's a long list, and we have to submit, I don't know, if there's something big, like, the one that's on my mind is probably some of the life safety stuff for the fire department, where the location of the hydrants are.
That could be a lot,
that could change a lot. But we do have two, but met with the assistant fire marshal out there, and it was a fine meeting. He had questions. I learned a couple of things of what they might need. But if the hydrants are okay, it's small stuff. It's basically access within 150 feet of all locations of the building, which we can provide pretty easy. But not knowing what they might ask for. But I think it's I won't say small stuff, but it's all doable. It's nothing that would kill our project, I don't think. It's things like lighting. It's things like the hydrant locations. Parking is still going to be probably something they bring up, which could lead to some lighting. The original landscape plan, like I said, it had a lot of stuff that was just never there, so they may want us to go that direction.
They probably will,
yeah. I do know, I think with the number of spaces we have, I think we need to add 3 trees. Which, again, that's not a huge thing. So.
Right. Great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Yep. Okay, moving on to new business. Back to Eli for a discussion of the 2023-2024 budget.
Okay, if you guys can bring it up on the screen there. So I've got this document appears in your packet on page 18, the page labeled 18. So I've just got a couple sections of it pulled out in slides here to make it a little easier to talk about. First, let's talk about the revenue part. So what you see here, and going from left to right, just to say what the columns are, the leftmost column was our actual final audited for the 21-22 year. The second column is our projection for where we're going to finish this year. The third column is our current operating approved budget. The fourth column is our proposed budget, what we're talking about. So really the fourth column is what we're talking about today. Then the fifth column is the difference between our projections for this year and our proposed for next year. And then the final column is the difference between the proposed for next year versus the approved for next year. Okay, so those two columns there help you see the difference between where things are coming in lower, the projections are lower than approved or higher. So, of course, almost all of this money comes from tax collections. For this draft of the budget, we used a number of $19.281 million. That represents, compared to our previous year, a 2.5% increase on our property tax revenue. The equalization report from the county just came out on Friday. So I just got it and I started going over it, and this is my initial assessment of crunching the numbers and determining it. It seems that what we estimated was a 2.5% increase is actually going to be a 6.7% increase.
Oh, wow.
And because this year there was inflation, we are not going to have a Headley rollback this year. Okay, so that puts us in an unusual position. I would estimate, and we still have to crunch some more numbers, that we're likely to have about $1 million more than this.
Wait, what is the provision in Headley that relates to inflation?
So when the value of the tax base goes up faster than inflation,
got it,
your Headley fraction is rolled back so that you don't grow faster than inflation.
That's right. Okay, so like.
But when things go well and
together,
there's high inflation,
yeah,
then Headley doesn't catch you.
Got it.
Yeah. So I've not seen that happen before. So of course, this is really the first time in 25 years that we've had measurable inflation. So it's a unique situation. So we're expecting to have about $1 million more than this.
Wild times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So looking down the rest of the revenue lines, there's nothing too much here that's very different. You can see we're still not really, because it's such an unpredictable environment from a investment standpoint, we're still not budgeting to receive any investment income. Because if we do, that's just great, but it would be better not to expect it. And the other lines are all very small. So that gives us, based on our previous projection, $19.7 million of revenue, okay? Now going on to the expense side. First, let's talk about the personnel. So what you've got in front of you here is our new salary structure. This was developed in, you worked with consultant Romberg Stover, who are compensation consultants. We'd worked with a different firm for a number of years. This was a good opportunity for us to start working with someone new. We've really been pleased with the direction they've gone. They did comps in the industry, they did comps in the county, they did comps in the city, comparing our pay rates to similar positions at other organizations. And they brought us back this new salary structure. I've shared with you tonight. We'll share it with all the staff on Friday at the end of this week. And what this shows is what the compensation ranges will be for next year. Now, the big thing to know about this, and this is the main thing that they were able to fix for us, is that the compensation structure, now each step going to the right is 3.5%. So each step goes up by 3.5% in all grades. Okay, so every column to the right is 3.5% greater than the column to the left. Also, each step going up is 10% above the grade going down, the one below it, with the exception of the top 3 grades, because we are very light on management positions up at the top. So we didn't want to put in grades just to not have anybody in them, right? So that's, what that then means is that this entire document only has one number on it, and that's the starting salary the starting wage for a book pro. Okay? That number, everything else is calculated based on that number. So that resolves a lot of the issues about the grades not being sort of aligned as you moved through them. The other thing is that this puts us in a position that this schedule will be revised annually instead of every 3 years. And we'll continue to work with Romberg Stover or a similar consultant to give us a recommendation of what that year's increase factor should be. We'll apply that when we get into the budget process, and then we'll know what the salary structure is going to look like for that year. One thing that is also to know about this is you can see up at the top of the document, the entire thing is the salary range. When we post a position, we always post from step 1 through step 6. Okay, so that's the posting range for the position. The part-time range goes from step 1 to step 4. That's new as of February. It used to be there was a separate part-time salary structure. We did away with that, so now part-time and full-time staff receive the same wages, but part-time staff advance through the first 4 steps. Just to kind of put this in perspective, a person who has worked for us as a part-time book pro for a number of years and is at the maximum step, their hourly wage July 1st of 2023 will be 34% higher than their hourly wage was July 1st of 2022. So that's a substantial increase we were able to make happen, including the increase that just happened in February, and then this increase as well. That does bring us up to a point where the minimum wage at the organization is $15.35 an hour. It also has the minimum wage for maintenance worker at $16.88, the minimum wage for desk clerk at $18.57 an hour. And then moving up through there, and each one of these grades, again, because the steps are all the same, each grade is 36.3% wide, meaning step 10 is 36.3% higher than step 1 for every grade. So those are the basics of this schedule. What you can see here on the screen are, we really focused on the lower end because one of the things that the survey showed us from our comps is that these were the positions that needed to be addressed the most. All positions are receiving some sort of a bump. And of course, I want to mention that staff who are already into the merit range, if their salary is already above the bottom step of the merit range, they will just continue to get their merit increase. People who are right there on the bubble, they will get either their merit increase or the step increase, whichever is greater. Okay, so nobody's getting like stuck because they were in a bad spot. They'll either get their merit increase they would have gotten anyway, or the step increase because the step has moved up past their salary and they need to be caught up to that. It's dense stuff. Let me stop for a moment and see, does anyone have any questions about the salary schedule? Yes.
I have a couple. So just to make sure I'm clear, for the part-time range, no matter how long a person is here, they're not going to go higher than step 4.
That's correct, but now every year step 4 will go up.
And do you have a sense of like approximately what we're talking in terms of the annual increases that are?
It's going to depend on inflation and also depend on how much our increase is going up. I mean, one of the challenges are that we can't really have these go up more than our revenue goes up, right, in a given year. But to that extent, I would expect them to be 2 to 3%.
2 to 3%, okay.
Yeah, which is on par with generally when we've had merit increases, it's been 3% as the center of the merit range.
Cool.
I don't understand the last thing you said about merit versus steps.
So once you get to step 4 and you're in the merit range, your increase is solely merit. Okay, and this applies to full-time staff, meaning we get your evaluation and we set what the merit pool is for that year through the budget process. The average score will get the average merit increase. Okay, so the merit pool is basically, now in practice, when that's a 3% merit pool, what that generally means is that most people's increases are between 2.5 and 3.5%. So it's not a big spread across those ranges. However, if you're just got into the merit range, it's possible that this will bring the step up higher than where your merit increase would have taken you. So you'll get the step increase instead of the merit increase. But if you're already into the merit range and your evaluation would be more than what the step increase would get, that's what you get instead. So whichever of the two is higher. Does that make sense, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm still a little confused. So how does one move between the steps? Like what's the criteria?
So once you get to step 4, the steps don't matter.
Okay.
Because then you're in the merit increase and whatever your merit increase takes you. except if someone gets promoted, we use the step that they're closest to help us
Got it.
determine where on this process they are to make the offer for their promotion.
Okay.
Okay, so the steps are still on here, but realistically, once you get to step 4, you get merit increases until you hit step 10.
Right.
But with these distance between the steps being 3.5%, and the merit pool often being 3, you're going to be fairly close to that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
What does this mean for merit as a concept?
This is the way we've been doing it for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not a change to that. And the way that merit is calculated is in the contract.
Right.
So this is not something that the library chooses to do. This is negotiated. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think I have another one. So, the steps, after step 4, the steps stop mattering and you get your just merit.
Right.
But essentially what merit is doing is bumping your salary up into the subsequent steps.
Well, it's that we don't really look at the steps unless you're getting a promotion.
Okay.
Because you're getting your merit increase instead of a step increase once you hit step 4.
Okay.
But it does, a lot of people will follow, like, because
Yeah,
it's
they'll
a
be
3%,
pretty close.
so if you're
Right,
getting
right.
3.5, then like
Right,
you're kind of moving, but it doesn't necessarily line up.
Yes.
Unless you're moving up into another position.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
I just want to comment that I'm really pleased with what came out on the bottom of this chart, that we're in the $15 to $18 range for people. I'm just really happy to see that.
Us too. Okay, any other questions about the salary structure before we resume?
Have we accounted for like what this will do to the budget?
Yes,
Okay.
what you're looking at includes this.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Oh, that's
So
really
what you're
good.
looking at includes these changes and the merit increase for the people who are getting the merit increases.
And it does not reflect the surplus that,
Correct, that's right.
okay.
What you're looking at today is a budget with everything in it that I just found out on Friday, we have $1 million more. Okay? So that's a good position to be in.
yes.
All right, so back up on the screen here, you can see, now this is one thing I want to point out. Well, how can we be given all these raises, but we're only increasing the proposed versus the improved less than $100,000? Well, that's because we are running under this year. So it's an increase close to $1 million from this year's actual projected to next year's budgeted, right? But because this year we left some money on the table with some positions that are just now being filled, that makes a big difference. So you can see this also includes our benefits for next year, which we've already selected. We're able to, again, continue to offer the same benefits. No substantial change. We are changing dental carriers, but it's a bigger network and the same coverage, so that's not a big change. We're changing our accidental death and dismemberment and the life vendor, but it's again the same coverage, and it's open enrollment, so it's going to be very similar. It's just a different vendor behind the scenes, and that allowed us to basically bring in the same benefits at barely a 3% increase for the next year, and the library will be absorbing the entire increase. So staff will not be paying anything more than what they paid in the past year for their percentage of the health care, and that is, I don't have it directly in front of me, but I think individuals it's like $5 a month, and something like $16 a month for 2, and like $36 a month for a family. So quite unheard of in America to get, and that's also a plan that has a $1,500 out-of-pocket maximum.
Yeah.
So it's
That's remarkable.
yeah, we've been able to really sort of manage these plans. I always am thinking each year when this comes around, is this going to be the year they tell us they won't sell us this plan anymore? But fortunately, we've been able to continue to get it.
Just a real quick question.
Yes.
Do we know what the merit increase percentage range is this year?
This is assuming 3%.
Okay.
Okay, now that is something that we can set it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But this has got 3% baked into that, which is what we've been doing for a very long time. The only time that we did not have a 3% merit pool was 2008, 2009, 2010, and maybe 2011. So there were a few years there when we had zero, we did not give merit increases. And those were the years when our revenue was going down following the 2008 real estate crash.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about personnel before we move on?
So do you think that the cost is going to stabilize at that sort of 9.1 budget number, and then it will increase. I mean, that's a big fluctuation in part because we had empty positions, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then it will stabilize around the 9 million range, and then we'll see that go up, incrementally to 2 to 5% onward.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting at this point, based if we tie those two together.
Got it.
Which I think is important for the long-term financial health of the organization.
Has the library ever done a higher increase during periods of high inflation?
No, but we did give a bonus in the past fiscal year. Right. But we've never, there have never been periods of high inflation since we became an organization. So it is certainly an option that the merit pool for this year could be larger. It's absolutely an option, and that's something we can talk about in Finance Committee.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks.
Okay, any other questions about personnel, salaries or wages or benefits? All right, so then here's everything else. Just to touch on a couple of highlights here, we are planning to bring our CFO, which is currently contract CFO, in-house. So that's basically cost neutral across the organization because we will no longer be paying that to a vendor, but we'll be paying that to an employee. So that's the first line. Building rental, there's not actually a change here. You can see down at the bottom, principal retirement. There's a GASB change about how you account for when you pay rent. And basically, it drives me crazy, but it has to be called principal retirement, even though we have no debt. So we show here in next year's budget $400,000 in principal retirement. That's basically the percentage of the rent that is going to, you're looking at your lease as a debt is the way that they want you to account for it. Because you've signed the lease, you are committed to pay that, right? So that's really just moving from building rental to principal retirement, even though we still have no debt as an organization to which to retire the principal. Communications were increasing a little bit. One thing that's going to be happening there is, well, actually, it's not increasing at all for next year. It's just increased over what our projection is. We're going to be adding hotspots in the fall, circulating hotspots, which we've not done before. It's part of our sort of equity-focused additions to the tools collection. In the fall, we'll be launching hotspots and graphing calculators that will both circulate for an extended period of time, like semester by semester, that sort of thing. So that will be coming in the fall. There's a small communications cost associated with that. We bumped up copier expense just a little bit. Most of these are pretty small ticket. You can see the materials budget there, as I talked about, because they've done such a good job utilizing that this year. That's going to be increasing a little bit, $160,000. Also, some of that's also the line where productions, when we produce content that the library then owns, that comes out of the materials budget as well. So that reflects almost $100,000 in bicentennial related production. Our Ann Arbor 200 project, we're planning to produce 200 new pieces of content, some of them videos, some of them plays, all kinds of different stuff. And so there's some money set aside to be able to do that kind of stuff in the next year. Let's see, other increases. So minor equipment purchases, this is mostly making an adjustment from one line to another. You can see we didn't really have this line before, and now we're throwing it in there. It's a line that it's basically about when there are things that you are purchasing that are a piece of equipment, but they're not capitalized, meaning that it's not over, we have a $5,000 capitalization threshold over which things are depreciated, and you have to track your depreciation, all that stuff. So this is for purchases that are under that. Things like monitors, laptops, things that don't cost $5,000 individually. So have a change there, but that's mostly coming out of other lines. And really, those are the big ones, other than capital outlays, which you can see is actually a little less for next year, but we are going to be going into this year with some of that money unspent, which I'll show you on the next slide. Any questions about these expenditures before we move on? Okay. So then here's like what you got left. This is the capital fund, okay? In 21-22, you can see there was a transfer of $5.8 million from the general fund to the capital fund, and $4.5 million of that was then spent to purchase the plaza. Then this year, we're expecting to end pretty close to 1.6 or up to $2 million with a surplus that we will be asking to move to the capital fund, right? Because most of that money is capital expenditures that was not spent this year. So that will put us, if we choose to move $2 million into the capital fund, That will put us with $4,021,000 in the capital fund going into next year. We're expecting, when all is said and done, that the plaza is probably going to be every bit of $3.5 million. Once we find out how many things need to be added to the scope of the project, particularly if we get into earth moving, which, you know, we had approached it as entirely an indoor project, and it's not going to just be an indoor project. So if you choose to put $2 million into the fund, then that will be a $4 million balance at the end of the next fiscal year. One thing to consider is if that's what you do with the extra $1 million. Because as we are preparing to think about replacing this facility, that's a major capital investment, and we really don't have any savings set aside for it. Even this scale of it is pretty small potatoes on what could easily be an $80, $90, $100 million project, right? So it is definitely, you are allowed to budget to make savings into the capital fund, provided they are designated, right? So you can designate and say, this is for the downtown library refurbishment or replacement fund. And you can budget in this year to put money into that. So that's something we'll talk about at the Finance Committee meeting, and we'll bring it back for discussion next month. But that is certainly an option of what to do with $1 million that we weren't expecting from our projections.
So this does not include the $1 million?
Correct. This does not include the $1 million.
On top of the 4, it's actually 5.
It could be 5 if you decide to bank $1 million from the operating fund into the capital fund.
Okay, understood.
And at what point would we make that decision in this budget?
So if we're required to pass a balanced budget, so the expenditures and the revenues have to match up. But moving money into the capital fund is an expenditure. So you can put that would be something we will decide for before the budget is approved. We will decide what to spend, what the accompanying millage rate is, and where that money should go. So that is something that will be decided now. If you're going to budget to take money from the operating revenue and put it into the capital fund next year, as opposed to what we normally have, wait and see what we have left at the end of the year.
Yeah, so otherwise build in another $1 million worth of operating expenses designated for whichever category.
Right. So
and then it would be possible that we didn't spend that, and it
That's
would
correct.
end up as a surplus that would go into the fund balance.
Yeah, so we can have that discussion, but
Yeah.
we could make that decision sooner than later.
That's correct. I mean, we need to make that decision as part of
Right.
approving
We
the
need to
budget.
make, we have to figure out if we're going to move it or not.
Yes.
Yes. There is, well, you have to figure out if it's going to be operating expenses or capital, because it's got to be a balanced budget, right?
Yes.
Of the 7 million or so that's in the fund balance right now, you said 1.7 is?
Yeah, we're projecting 1.6, but it depends on what we decide to spend on an electric truck in a few minutes.
So the remainder is just?
The remainder will go, if
in the
you
fund
take no
balance.
action,
Yeah.
it just goes into the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah.
But we're likely to bring a resolution at the June meeting to move the projected surplus into the capital fund, as this shows.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay, any other questions about budget? All right, thank you to Anna and Aiden and Kat from the Finance Committee for helping us work through this.
Okay, moving on to the space use agreement with the Friends of the Ann Arbor District Library. So, I guess back to Eli for introduction.
So just, this is a real quick one, because this is the unchanged space use agreement from the prior year. We don't have anything that we need to change other than the date. Now that you have seen it, if you have any comments, let me know. And then what we'll do next is we will discuss it with Friends leadership and bring it back for a final approval at next month's meeting. But at this point, the library doesn't have anything that we wish to change about the document. It will want to change after the plaza is habitable and we've moved out there, because it is transitional. It talks about both spaces, but we're still transitioning. So that's something that the document is fine as is, and we're not seeking any changes.
And as a reminder, this was pretty significantly revised in the last year.
Correct.
I mean, I reviewed it again, and it all seems reasonable to me. And I guess we just have to accept it's transitional still.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, next month, the date of the board meeting, May 22nd, is itself the 70th anniversary of the Friends of the Library.
Whoa.
So they will be coming and they'll be having a presentation to give to us, and that will be all very exciting. So it'll be a very friend-centric library board meeting. It'll be terrific.
So we're going to vote on this next
month,
meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions about the Friends agreement, space use agreement?
I would also be happy to pass a motion to accept the agreement as is at this meeting if you want to expedite the business.
I think, are we required to bring it up twice?
I don't think
Not
so.
necessarily, yeah. I would like to just have an opportunity to discuss it with the Friends Board.
Before we move on
Yeah,
it.
just
Okay.
in case there's something that they would like to see.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. And we come back around to the foreshadowed fleet vehicle conversation here.
Len wants money
Len,
again.
yeah.
It's a pattern. So the library fleet, we have 4 vehicles. We have the newest vehicle is a Transit. I think it was 18, 19, we replaced that because the old van dropped the transmission on the highway one day. So we kind of run them until their useful life is over. But our box truck is getting there. The box truck is 2014, a little over 100,000 miles, but they are hard miles that you see it around town. It is always on the road. It is stop and go city driving, and this past year it was in the shop at least 6, 8, 10 times, something like that. We had about 13,000 in repairs and rentals, which prompted this conversation. And we kind of talked about doing something electric if we could because of the plaza and changing how we run the route. So we just looked at the fleet as a whole. So we have the newer transit vehicle we use. It's mostly a staff vehicle. We have another van that's a 2014 that probably in a couple years we'd look at replacing. And then we have our real maintenance truck, which used to do plowing. That one's a 2003, and it's in really bad shape. The wiring harness for the plow and everything it doesn't work. There's issues with headlights, so we've removed the plow, and it's just a drive-around truck. And the box truck, again, is the one that takes all the abuse. So we have looked at the electric option and an option for a gas truck, which is the same. So that's it's on an E450, which is the Ford just cutaway chassis. Ours is currently gas. The replacement cost is probably around $70,000 if we were to do the exact same truck. And then there's the EV option. It's around $250,000. Worked on this for about a year, reached out to everyone we could reach out to. This truck's hard to find. They're usually smaller for city driving, or they're much bigger for more freight. So this company, Motive, out of California, they actually upfit the trucks here in Novi. They buy the truck from Ford. They take out the engine and the drivetrain. They send it to Indiana for the upfitting. It comes back and gets electrified here in Novi, and they also do all the service here in Novi. So this truck comes with 3 BMW i3 batteries, like a 8 to 10 year life on the battery. The company has 2.3 million miles of driving that's not demo. We did the research. They've sold in California, New York, Wyoming, Ontario, British Columbia. So it's been in our weather. I did visit the site over in Novi. It's kind of cool. They did not have our truck. They had school buses. They had one of the truck that goes to British Columbia, which is Pure Later International, which is a delivery company, and talked to some of those folks. They just ordered 55 more of them. So it's a company that's been around a little bit. I think if we wanted to do something like that, it's the best fit. It comes with an AC charger, which seems like it would be enough for us. I think the range is 110 miles. It would have an electric lift gate and those types of things. So the discussion really is, we have 2 that need to be replaced, and how do we want to replace them? If we do, the F-250 probably needs to be the same because we don't have a grounds contract at the plaza, and we don't plan on doing it. And so if we call for snow removal there, it's around $800–900 every time they plow. But we'd also kind of like to have that for ourselves, for those all-day grinders where we can go out and keep the lots clear for patrons. So it's nice to have that vehicle, and that can't be an electric option. So we'd like to have the conversation replacing both of those, but how would we like to do it?
Why can't it be electric?
Because the plow is electric over hydraulic.
So it just doesn't have enough?
Yeah, even if like.
I don't understand technically.
No, it's fine. Even if it's a gas or diesel pickup truck that plows, the rule is you don't turn them off. Because even though it's running, it's still wearing the batteries down. So if you were to plow for a few hours and turn the truck off, try to turn it back on, it probably wouldn't turn it back on. Because you're draining everything down, because that hydraulic motor for the plow is a huge strain. And then if we did a salt spreader, that would be electric too. I mean, that's one of the downsides of the EV, right? It's great for driving, but everything else you do, you're still using the batteries.
And then what is I kind of lost the thread when you were talking about like an E450 versus like this other option? Is that, or is it, was that the same thing?
That's the thing, they're both E450s.
But like one is retrofitted by this other
Yes.
company. Is there a benefit to that, or is it just like?
No, I think it's just the platform, you know. Ford's one of those companies. Their cabs and chassis, they go everywhere from the E and the F350 up to 850. So the sizing there's more options there.
In this case, the E does not stand for electric.
No,
It's
I
just
think
the
it's a
model line.
Econoline, yes. It's like the van. When you see the box truck that looks like a van in the front, that's the E.
Oh, so that E, that's a gas vehicle, and then.
Yes. I'm
That's what
sorry, yes.
Thank you.
But they're both on yes, both these options, they look identical, but one's electric and one's not.
And the electric one costs like $1 billion more.
Quite a bit more.
Well worth it to save the environment, I would
Yes.
say, considering that we just discussed $1 million in unexpected revenue. So.
Do we have the infrastructure to support the continual charging of these vehicles? And if so, where are the charging ports? Is it accessible to all of the library locations and intermediate?
No, we wouldn't put them everywhere. So the purchase of this vehicle comes with one charging, and you have your choice of AC or DC. And I asked those questions, and for what we do, the AC would be fine, which it comes with. If we wanted to purchase a second, say if we wanted to charge downtown as well, it would be around $8,000 for the extra unit, and you could plug it in. For what we plan on using it for, one charging station at the plaza, it stays there overnight. We could run our whole route with one charge.
Is that the most environmentally friendly place to place the charger within our system?
I think, yes, because the truck will be out of the weather, and once we move to the plaza, collections and acquisitions will be there. So our plan was always to start the route from there once we move in.
Cool.
And then also we're talking about, in terms of source, like electricity source too at the plaza, there's possibilities in the future for.
Oh, for like solar.
Well, yeah, there's a transformer at the plaza now, so we're already bringing power down. So we're bringing more power in than we're using.
But there's the possibility in the future that we could add, carbon-free electricity generation at the plaza.
Yes.
And storage as well, which would be required to charge this. Because the time when it is on the road is the time when the sun is shining.
Right.
So that's something that we would like to do. Now, there is an issue with the mass of a solar installation on the warehouse roof that wasn't necessarily designed to hold the mass. But there's also more space there, so there's other places that we could put it. But we would love to first get to the point where we have a electric delivery vehicle, especially because it's just easier for us to use, and then getting to the point where we then are charging it without using the power grid.
Right. Yes.
But that would come later and be many more millions of dollars.
So the range of the vehicle is 110 miles. I mean, I know the range varies based on the temperature.
Yep.
So in the winter, like we got a couple really hard cold weeks in February. Like, what's the?
Yeah. So if you're running, you could potentially drop up to 20%.
Yeah.
If you're running to heat, there are settings on the brakes for the regeneration.
Yep.
And they were really open. They said start with 0 and work your way up as you get comfortable. So there's 6 different settings. So you can do some regeneration while you're driving, but still within that range, we could still run our.
How long is the route? Like 50 miles? Even 50
I think it's like 58 miles.
Yeah. Huh, So that gives us a considerable cushion between the 110-mile range in good weather
Right.
and the 58 miles that we need it to go to run a complete route.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of buffer I'd want to see. Like, and the other thing I'm wondering is, like, do we have to worry about battery degradation over time where, because it'd suck to get to the position point where we can't do the whole route in the winter.
Well, the one thing I didn't bring up, we usually trade our vehicles in.
Yeah.
We don't plan on trading in the box truck from 2014. We'd like to keep that as a backup 4 times.
Okay.
It could be an event, it doesn't have to be the route, but it would be nice to have that backup vehicle and then spend the time to fix some of the things that we need to and have that as a backup.
Currently, when the truck is offline for whatever reason, we have to go to U-Haul because we
Yeah.
can't not run it.
Yeah.
So it's like 10, 12 times we've rented a truck this past year.
So it'd be nice to have that second one. We do the wrap on the truck for summer game and their events, and so it'd be nice to have the second one.
And so how long would you hope to have this truck on the road?
I think that's the unforeseen part, right? So the battery life is 8 to 10 years, and I learned that they don't look at the EVs as mileage, it's charges. So this bank of 3 batteries can go over 3,000 charges, so that's probably around 7 years, but the truck still has value, that's replacing the batteries at that point. So there's 3 battery banks between the axles, or between the frame rails. So in 7 to 8 years, those 3 batteries might need to be replaced, but we could still get another 15 years out of the truck, or a 15-year total life out of the truck. But at some point, the batteries would need to be replaced.
And then how much are the batteries?
I didn't get a price on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not $250,000.
Of course. Thank you.
How much are we spending now on fuel? And what do we anticipate the charging costs would be when we're paying for electricity, like since we don't yet have our?
Not sure. I mean, the fuels, it would be less electricity than we're paying for gas.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's on the road all the time. It's 2 routes a day, and that truck is all over town. So far less in electricity than what we were paying in fuel. And then 0 emissions, of course. So.
Right.
Well, right, I mean, so, there's no question that this is the environmentally friendly choice to make, right? Like, that's not a discussion that we need to have. It's really about, fiscal responsibility. And so trying to, balance how much money we're spending to be environmentally friendly and whether we decide like that.
How much would we be spending if we weren't doing this truck electric?
Yeah, like how much are we, if we were.
The same truck we have is around $70,000.
Okay.
So it's 70 versus 250.
Yeah.
If we were to do this, I would also be a proponent of us adding another $8,000 charging station at a strategic location so that we don't just have the one. I know that it's very unlikely. We have a great cushion, but another does not have to be downtown. It can be anywhere in the sense of there is a freak storm or there is traffic that unexpectedly, at the last minute. So in my mind, I would be very encouraging of looking at this as a $260,000 purchase as opposed to $250,000.
Well, and I don't have the final quote. My 250 does actually include a couple extras.
Oh, okay. Well, even better.
Because here's the thing. They gave us budget numbers for a lot of this.
Right.
Because we haven't committed. The lift gate's a budget number of around $8,000. I thought about the extra charges.
You're ahead of me. Okay, thank you.
We don't want to come back twice when we have these discussions. So we're usually, we talked about rust proofing and undercoating. Can you do that on the EV? What does that do for service? And they said they can do all that at the time of the buildup. So the 250 does include all that.
Great, thank you.
And I love that they're in Novi.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm curious about their capacity for repairs versus they're building these things there. Like, what are we talking in terms of how long?
They explained it. I asked if this is where I bring the vehicle if it needs service. They said no, we come to you. Because it's not like they don't need a shop. They take everything out of the truck, so it's that electric drivetrain and those 3 batteries. It was cool to see all the different vehicles and the hoods popped, and it's like, huh. So yes, they actually come to you unless it's a huge thing.
But in terms of time, do we anticipate that the time would be comparable in terms of if it needs repairs, how long it's going to be off the road, that kind of thing? Are they? That's I guess that's what I'm asking is their capacity.
So if we placed a call, how long before they could come for service?
Right.
I would think 48 hours.
Okay.
You know, they had a pretty good staff over there.
Okay.
And so from a longevity standpoint, you're saying that, you know, the battery's 7 to 8 years, and then we replace it, and then, like, you're saying like around 20 years we'd have this truck? 15 years?
I think 15 is a good goal. And the other thing we have going for us is the plaza. I mean, this will be inside. This truck has always lived outside.
Yeah, and so then, is that a similar timeline to the gas truck? 15 years?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, so they're, like I'm just kind of trying to see if we're like apples to apples, right?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, it's the vehicle. I mean, if the box truck takes more abuse. The F-250 we have now is from 2003.
Right.
So we got a little more life out of that than we did the box truck just because of the miles.
Yeah.
And this could be the same thing. Like, if you're not pouring money in repairs, there's no reason to sell it. And that's our yellow van, the other Econoline we have. We could go electric with that one for a lot less than what this freight truck is. Like, they have the fully electric Transits, bigger than we bought for staff, but comparable in size. Those are $70,000 to $80,000. So in a few years, that could be a second EV. It doesn't, and for most of what we do, they don't. Like the plow truck and the service truck's the only one that needs to be gas. Everything else could be electric if we wanted it to.
Are there hybrid options for the plow truck?
They're not in a Super Duty. In the F-150 series, there is a hybrid that I think it's a year or two old now. Their first hybrid was not really a hybrid. It had 2 electric motors that gave you like 2 miles a gallon. They do have one now that actually has a battery bank, and I think it's the 3.5 liter V6 is the hybrid. But the problem is, well, F-150, the front end doesn't really hold a plow well. You got to go to the Super Duty to have it. You know, you're lifting 2,500 pounds off the ground.
The one other thing I want to consider is that these vehicles would be particularly important to us in the event of a disaster. And I really don't want us to be without an internal combustion truck in the event that we are trying to keep multiple branches running on generator when the grid is out of commission. So it's partially like disaster planning to make sure that we still have something that, you know, that can still run in those situations. Mad Max, so, you know.
Well, and your hybrid question also made me think about, like, how confident do you feel about the technology for these? You know, it sounds like this company's been around, they're selling fleets of these things, but like, is now the time? Is it better to wait, or do you think you have like confidence in the, you know, not only the technology, but the price, you know, it's like, are we buying a DVD player in whatever year?
Or
like,
an HD DVD player, perhaps.
Yeah, right, you know.
No, I think that's the question where we all ask ourselves right now. I mean, because this, like, the freight size vehicle for delivery is still kind of new. The technology is the same, though. I mean, the batteries and the drivetrains are similar. It's just most fleet vehicles that go and do deliveries, 100 miles is not enough.
Yeah.
So I think the road miles, when we started this, Freightliners, they have a platform. It's still not on the road yet. They're still testing it. But that's supposed to be something that can go, you know, 400 miles or 500 miles. That's still super new. I think most of the technology is the same, whether it be a car or this truck. It's just a little bit bigger. Now, this drivetrain in a car, you'd get a lot more than 100 miles.
Sure.
But, you know, they're calculating the payload of what the truck is plus what you're hauling, and that drives the miles down.
Sure.
So, but that's a great question. I mean, it is 70 versus 250.
My understanding is that these type of programs are very much in piloting stages, whether it's these large companies and conglomerates or at a local, smaller level. I think the price point gives me pause, frankly, in consideration of that being these large, like Amazon, these are piloting programs because they cannot enforce that sort of procedure at scale. I think that's what gives me pause. I think that now the time and opportunity is right, presumably, because we are looking at the plaza and because it is, at least in my mind, in the industry standard, like in beta or in pilot, we're going to be getting in at a really good price point. I would actually imagine the next 5 to 10 years it'd be much more expensive as folks can capitalize on that. So I'm encouraging of us, if we were to look this as a pilot, and we still had that combustible, engine on lock. However, again, the price point does very much give me pause. Something to talk about more further, I would assume. I also, too, I'm not questioning or challenging the effectiveness of this company. I've done little to no research in their history and what they can do. Aftermarket adjusting a car or any type of technological product also makes me a bit hesitant, purely because in this sense it is a third-party sort of thing that we're purchasing. Again, surely they do fantastic work. I trust the research that you and the staff has done. I would just be curious at, even in 5 years, there might be an alternative option that Ford or a historied car maker releases to the world, of which we're able to use without tearing it apart, so to speak. So I think there's a lot more deliberation to be had here at this time. However, very appreciative and supportive of this, and I am generally encouraging of some type of electric fleet pilot, so to speak, as technology evolves.
Yeah, that's another great point. I was surprised to see you actually have to buy the cabin chassis with a combustion engine and then remove the stuff. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You get credited back all those components, but it's not far. They're not just selling a stripped down cabin chassis. You actually have to purchase it. They strip it down and then they electrify it. I didn't know that was part of the process.
Yeah. Part of the reason that we're bringing this now is because we're in the position where we need to have a second truck. Not so much because of capacity, but because of redundancy and resiliency, really. And so it's a question of, should we have two internal combustion trucks, or should we have an internal combustion truck as our backup and an EV as our regular one? I wouldn't call us a super early adopter on this truck, but it's definitely like a second wave kind of adopter here. There's certainly the potential for fiasco with what happens with this vehicle. But I am very encouraged to see a very large Canadian delivery company making a substantial investment in it based on their experience. And one thing is like, so it's one thing to take those cues from other institutional partners. It's another to take them from business, where the proof is generally going to be in the pudding for them to have chosen to make it a bigger investment. So I don't think it's super sketchy.
Have you talked to those Canadians?
I've talked to one person, but I told them before we committed, I wanted to talk to a few more people. They did have one of the Pure Later International trucks there when I visited the site. They had one of the trucks that was going to BC.
Yeah, Eden, I take your point about a pilot, but it feels like a weird term to me when it's a truck.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think I'm more so speaking to like the process of like the infrastructure in place in terms of the logistics, the operations, everything else. I even would be interested too, again, very supportive of this, if we were to look at it through like a different alternative, cheaper vehicle. And the sense of the greatness between 70 and 250,000 is we could surely experiment with another type of vehicle that perhaps we would need or benefit from for sizably cheaper, see if it even makes sense from a logistics perspective, et cetera, et cetera. Just my cautious 2 cents, however, again, supportive.
Yeah.
So a couple random notes. I also am not super enthusiastic about buying a truck and then tearing it apart to get a new truck. But I will observe that there are mature businesses that do with very similar business models. Like there's a whole huge marketplace of people who convert these same vehicles to RVs and recreational vehicles and other, these are platforms that are platforms already. It's weird that they're going electric versus being just reusing the whatever they're putting on top of the chassis, but it's not unheard of. It's pretty common for companies to build their business on top of these platforms from the big three. The charger thing, another question I would have is can we use a third-party charger if we needed one? Do we actually need to install, so maybe we don't need to install extra chargers if we can identify if we're in a pinch, we know we're not gonna hit the miles.
Yes, they have.
Where can we go?
They have two third-party vendors they use. There is the Motive charger.
Yeah.
But at the shop, I saw 2 different ones. I asked about them. He said, you don't have to use ours. You can use these other ones.
Just have the right dongle.
Right, so just knowing, like, having, it would be good to know, like, before we make a decision on whether to invest in installing chargers, are there compatible chargers that are accessible to us already in the community, and would we be able to use those as just a logistics planning kind of thing? So,
And the strip down is, it is a cabin chassis, so it's a frame. So when I say strip down, they pull the motor and the transmission out and the exhaust, everything else stays. It's not, I mean, it's odd they do that.
Right.
But it's not like, most of the components stay, you know.
But the engine's a big one.
Yeah, it is. No, they had probably 6 or 8 engines on pallets, and I was just like, wow, okay, all brand new.
So are there any other sort of operational benefits of having an electric vehicle over an internal combustion vehicle? Like, I don't know, like, I'm just trying to think of, like, are there any other reasons besides the environmental friendliness, and maybe the localized pollution, which is, I mean, we're exposing the community and staff to, like, diesel fumes and whatever when they're operating.
It's not
vehicles,
diesel.
or is it?
No,
gasoline?
everything we have is gas.
Okay, so, so not so bad. But still, like, are there any other benefits that we might not think of?
No, I mean, I think those are the big ones, but it's also, I mean, I will say, it is still less maintenance, right, overall. And, and it's an inconvenience, but there is no trip to the gas station, right? So we're not changing oils, we're not doing all those things, and we've learned that with, we bought the electric mower for the plaza. We've had it a year now. It is as good as any commercial gas or diesel mower, hands down. And we have not put any gas in it or any oil, and the maintenance is super low. There's a few grease points, and I think this is a similar thing. So no, it's mostly environmental, and then some luxuries of not having to take it and do different things with it. I mean, you're changing headlights and wipers.
Right. Yeah, and that's well known that typically with EVs, there's fewer moving parts, so there's fewer things to break.
Yeah.
Less friction in the whole system, so that they tend to last longer, except for the batteries.
Yeah, the batteries are a big thing.
Have you looked at hybrid options?
For the box truck? No, I didn't. No, I looked at the 2 options, and like I said, this was the only one that really fit our need, right? This was the only company that I had multiple conversations with, and it's like, this is the sweet spot. A lot of them that are used in New York City, they're too small. They're too small for we'd run the route twice with what they could actually hold, because it is more like a transit size vehicle. And those are widely used, but this is kind of that spot, like I said, for what we might put in there. And it doesn't have to be our materials. We do a lot of our event stuff. We'll load them tables and chairs, and there's 8,000 pounds in the back of that truck, which makes it kind of unique in its own way.
So I'm curious about the future of the company. Like, how confident are we that we could service this thing if the company goes under in 5 years?
Again, great question. I mean,
do they make their motors, or they're just using someone else's motor?
I think that's when
They're a conversion company, they're not necessarily the manufacturer.
So I wanted to point out the batteries are BMW i3s.
Yeah.
So I don't think BMW's going out of business, so I feel pretty confident no matter what happens, we can get the batteries.
Great.
And it probably wouldn't even have to be through them, because I'm sure BMW is selling that same battery to everyone. And it may be in some of the smaller vehicles. This one has 3, and you can add more, but you might have a smaller vehicle that has 1 of these batteries, and that's enough.
Which way are you leaning now?
No, this is why I brought it to the board.
Yeah.
Because I think
I don't know if you're thinking of a recommendation quite yet. Because I know, like, we typically ask for environmentally friendly solutions to these kinds of challenges. And there are just so many, like, this is a very complicated set of, like, variables and vectors to be thinking about. So I'm curious to know, like, I guess, I don't know. We're not landing in any place in particular quite yet.
I think partially it's because we don't want to go out and buy another internal combustion truck.
That's
time.
That's the biggest point. Like, I could see me personally going either way, but if we buy another internal combustion engine, it'll be another 10, 15 years before we have this conversation again.
Right.
Unless we buy it and then some solution surfaces in 5 years and we sell it and buy something different, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's like an in-between option.
A new battery that performs better, that fits in that platform.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a goal that we've talked about of getting to the point where we can run the route without emissions, right? We're a long way from that, right? But we can at least, this is an opportunity to move a little bit in that direction, particularly with us having unspent money in the capital outlays for this year.
Yeah.
Or, this is a capital expense, capital doesn't have to be buildings. So this is something that you could do in the next fiscal year. It's something that we could talk about doing once we have a better idea where the plaza is coming in. But it's something that it's beyond the scope of a decision that Len and I want to make independently.
Yeah, I will completely, I want to, especially with the plaza coming and the added solar capabilities and electric, like I want to capitalize and use that. I just have a million questions about how we can do that the best way. I think that the time could not be more ripe for us to be considering this.
And we could always, I mean, I mentioned it, we have the Econoline. If we wanted to do a smaller EV first, that size van is around $70,000 to $80,000. And that is.
Do we need a new one?
We can get a few more years out of it, but it's
got some holes in it.
It's got some holes in it.
I do wonder too, just like this, how does a $250,000 vehicle play out in the community? And like it's really hard for me to know. Do people think that's something to celebrate and really embrace our leadership in making a move like that? Or is it like profligacy,
Well,
I just don't know.
It's hard to say for sure. Of course, depending on what point people want to make, they'll take whichever position supports that.
Well, yes, of course.
But I think a big thing about one of our, ideas for this is that it'll be real clear that it's an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
That we would not necessarily use it to promote library events the same way that we currently do. That it'd be like, your material's on the way to your branch, someday powered by the sun. That's not something that we're able to do now with DTE.
Yes.
But, I think that it is in some ways a rolling demonstration of our commitment to decreasing the carbon footprint of the institution. I think that for the most part, you're going to get more people who are tickled by that, and without even thinking about, well, actually this is worse because the electricity is every bit as dirty at this point as so I think it's probably likely to not be a major factor as something that we are accused of, because the people who are going to accuse us of profligacy on something like this, there's plenty of other things that they can do that they can make the same same
We're
charge.
profligate in all other kinds of ways that they can attack. I suppose you're right.
We literally buy books and let anybody walk out of here with them.
Seeds? You're giving away seeds? What are you doing? I know.
So what would you like to see happen next with talking about this, making this decision?
I would love to see a lot of the things we've talked about written down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like some kind of slide deck or whatever.
Yes.
Like to have.
I have their budget. I have, but like I said, I wanted to have this conversation before we really committed to anything. But yes, I have their budget. Or the budget for the truck and the breakdown and all that.
And maybe some of those sort of projections of like the life of the vehicle versus what we would buy if we were going with what we have now.
I like that.
Those kinds of maintenance questions, fueling, other things that seem relevant.
I mean, I think it's similar to we did some of this when we were like looking at generators and just like that kind of thing.
I'm trying to channel Victoria.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
Well, I mean, one thing about the life cycle cost, when we were building the branches, there was detailed analysis done of how long it would take to pay back for those systems. You don't really have that on a vehicle.
Yeah.
This is almost certainly going to cost more money.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's like, how do you price in the carbon in essence? And that's a challenging question.
Yeah.
And what is the timeline like for your needs? Because you've been putting it in the shop, it's been.
Yeah.
It's kind of now.
I wouldn't say now, but within this year, we're going to want to make a decision. And on it, like the F-250, that's something we should do. This is the time, because now it's spring, and all the dealerships with the plow truck sitting on the lot, they would love to see one of those go away.
Yeah.
So
that seems a lot
that's an easier
more
one.
straightforward. And, I just think it's important for us to recognize that it's like, it's now or in 15 years
Yeah.
to try this. And so we do have this little
We do,
window
yeah.
of opportunity to do this, greener option and just
We don't need a
recognizing like
box
we
truck
have to do
tomorrow.
something.
We don't need a box truck tomorrow, but I think within a year, we're gonna wanna make a decision, because it's starting to be, it's at the point now where if we're spending this much in repairs,
Right.
it's getting close.
Well, and to Aiden's point about how it's not gonna get cheaper to buy the electric option, like, there's also just the inflation that we've been talking about today to keep in mind about even delaying this by a year or two. The ICE version might be more, like,
Yeah, it could, give or take $50,000. It could go either way in 24 months, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with battery technology and the commercialization of all that. Like that's a giant wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one other sort of a wild card in this is at some point in the next few years, there may be a federal program that helps make this substantially cheaper. One of the challenges for us right now is because we don't pay taxes, tax credits don't really help us. So, but there could be some programs on the state or federal level, either for the solar or for the truck itself, to help encourage this sort of transition to happen, make it make more economic sense. And you hate to buy something, and then there's a federal program that makes it half the price. Yeah, right.
That raises the question, though, if there are other grants, like grant opportunities out there to potentially help fund this as like, we're a nonprofit organization, like proof of concept, help us buy this truck.
We have just started on some of those conversations with, yes.
Could we do those retroactively as well? Like we buy the thing and then we apply for the grants to help cover those costs?
I think there's a window, a very, very slim window.
It's all going to depend on the granting agency and where the money's coming from.
Are there any electric utilities that are looking for opportunities to generate goodwill in the community? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with seeing things in writing. Getting some sense of like comparing the kind of TCO of the different options would be very helpful.
Let me see what I have enough, but let's see if we want to do next month for the May meeting or even the June meeting, and we'll do this again. And you know me, I'm happy to bring one of the reps in here.
Do you need us to approve the purchase of the truck at that cost?
We would need you to
Sorry,
approve
the plow truck.
Yes, the plow truck, yes.
So you can bring that to us, I think, next month.
Okay.
For approval. It sounds like that's.
Yeah, because that would be a capital expense, so we would just want that to be approved by resolution in advance. Also, it would be something that we wouldn't necessarily be going out to bid.
Right.
So that would be something we want to pass through the board.
And then we'll keep talking about.
Yeah, I like it.
And is there a benefit to doing that before this?
Well, I mean, we are in a
fiscal year is
position where we
over?
have a considerable amount of capital money this year.
But if we make that move into the capital fund, we can spend it on this truck.
Absolutely, yeah. The door doesn't close, really.
Okay.
But if you think it's advantageous to go make a purchase now of a plow truck, we ought to get on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to buy one in December.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work on this. It's clear all diligence has been met. We appreciate it.
Very good. All right, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm enthusiastic. I think
huge +1, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so that brings us to citizens' comments number 2. Have we received any online comments?
Just double check here. Of course, I have to watch a Pizza Hut ad. Where did it go? Okay, nope, we're all good.
Great. All right, if that's everything, then we are adjourned.